question is, what would the black community look like if it was free to self-actualize, free from racism, white supremacy?
Is it looks like mine. It's like harmony. It looks like quality. It looks like peace. It looks like everything that we are striving for in this world.
I mean, I think the first thing that we have to establish when we're talking about independence is discussing what is independence. What is independence for everyone? Then specifically, what is independence for us? Independence is when you have your own sovereignty.
I mean, I think the key thing for me is wrapping our minds around what we mean by independence. And I think that there's a difference between freedom and independence, although the two are in the same family, so to speak.
Living in a community where you're free.
For us, by us wouldn't just be a slogan or a catchphrase. It would be the actual way that we lived. It would be normal.
We would have gotten rid of the rugged individualism that plagues a lot of us and keeps us kind of, acting as like animals, sometimes kind of with a dog-eat-dog mentality.
We're free to move independently. We're free to move without obstruction. We are free to move without being oppressed or in an oppressed situation. I think we would understand more so how creative we could be, how much more protective we would be in our environment, how much more responsive we would be to one another, how proactively we could think if we weren't under the thumb of white supremacy and an oppressive state and systems that it causes and creates amongst us.
All right. So the question is, what is black independence and what is a black independent community? Right. I believe that that's not just a cut and dry answer. That's not something you could just say, well, the black independence is this. I think if you try to just define it without putting thought into it, we're going to keep getting the same results that we're getting, just a lot of filibustering and talking and debating and arguing and intellectual masturbating, because we haven't really put real thought into what black independence is. Because one of the reasons why I chose this clip is I like the fact that questions were being asked to define what independence is. What's the difference between independence? What's the difference between freedom? What's the difference between independence, freedom, and liberation? How do these things pertain to us in Black America in 2023? Is living in an independent Black community, is that something that's even still attainable for Black Americans today? And so I think that's a good question that we could put on the floor and kind of deal. We could bring up our definitions and all that stuff there. You can see my internet acting like Metro PCS, but it's all good. We're still here. But I just put that out and started with you, Pat, so we can rock it with you. But when you think Black independence, what's the first thing come to your mind?
You sure you don't want to start with PC? I mean, I can give an answer, but it's his documentary.
I want to start with you because you talk first.
I did talk first.
You did talk with your suit on.
I did talk first. I had pajama pants on under that. Anyways. I think to me, when I think about Black independence, I think a community that is self-sustaining. But then for me, it goes deeper than that, because I think, we could all give 2 or 3 sentences and then be done with it. But how do we go deeper than that? Like what was mentioned in the documentary, because the documentary did go pretty deep with regards to independent Black community. A self-sustaining community that has a business infrastructure and an educational infrastructure that communicate with each other and that intertwine with each other to produce the things that the community needs from inside of the community. So, it's not just a community that owns its own businesses and owns its own uh buildings and things of that nature. It's a community that owns, yes, it owns its own businesses, it owns its own educational systems, it owns its own homes and buildings, but it also owns the methods of procurement for those things that are used to build those other things. It also owns and produces its own intellectual capital that is used to progress and develop those things and new ideas. It owns the resources and it manages its economy very, very well, or to an extent where if need be, it could be cut off and still sustain itself. And all of those are still, it's a little bit deeper, but it's still a high level type conversation to go digging into that would mean, like, not only defining these terms but articulating how these things would come about, the processes that need to be put in place to bring these things about, and the ideas that would need to be in the minds of the people that exist in those spaces to protect them, because at some point you are going to reach out and touch or communicate or deal with people from other communities. But how do you do that and still maintain your own independence while also giving the other community something that's beneficial to them, that allows you to create a sustainable relationship? So it gets to be real interesting. But I think
Right.
about all those things, and in the interest of keeping it short
Right.
ish, I'm gonna stop.
But one of the main characteristics, though, you were going to say is to be self-sustaining to be an independent community.
Absolutely, self-sustaining is a requirement.
Gotcha. All right. UPC, what's your definition of an independent community or independent or black independence, period?
It goes a lot along the lines of what Patrick was talking about in regards to just understanding that the nation building aspect of it. Nations, they have borders, they have boundaries. Sometimes the boundaries aren't physical boundaries, but they're ethical boundaries. And the self-sustaining part of it, being a group of people that are self-sustained, self-contained. We when we look at uh, different places around the world, we see nations, and nations are able to protect their borders. Nations are able to insulate themselves. And that, I think, is what independence looks like for us. It looks like of us functioning through our own volition, through our own momentum, but being able to establish ourselves in terms of our independence from other entities. Not to say other entities that never have influence, that's just the global climate of the
Right.
world. But to be able to point to something, culturally speaking, nation building speaking, however you say it, and say that this specifically belongs to this particular community without any sort of inference from other people, other groups of people. So when I look
Right.
at independence from that perspective, I look at it from a simplicity point of view, and say I can say that basically you create the boundaries from which your people operate and function within, and they can't be corrupted by outside influences. You know what I'm saying? And you control your infrastructure.
Right. So when I think about it, because I think we all agree that self-sustainability is one of the key components of black independence. If you're going to consider yourself independent in any way, and I don't care what race, color, whatever, self-sustainability. And so I know a lot of times I see in the comments, sometimes people they say that they believe that us being able to be self-sustaining is impossible, being that we are in America. I don't believe it's impossible, because it has self-sustaining black communities have happened before in America. We talk about them all the time. Maroon communities, Palenques, Quilombos, all these things. They were they were self-sustaining black communities. Over time, of course, no, they were bombarded by the Europeans, but you had some that were able to sustain themselves for like 30, 40, 50 years, independent of anything else. And I think when we talk about black independence, we need to take a realistic view and a realistic look at what is independence, what it takes to be independent, and what it takes to remain independent. I think structure and infrastructure, and then along the lines of the 9 areas of human activity, but structure and infrastructure, especially in the modern days, because let's just be real. If black people want to be independent in America, we also want to sustain our lifestyles.
I think that's part of the problem, though.
Exactly. Exactly. Because in order to sustain the lifestyle, you're going to have to be able to continue the infrastructure and to continue the structure. And we don't have the means to do that. Now, in order to really take a step toward independence, we're going to have to be willing to give up the lifestyles, give up the comfort.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think we do have it, though. I mean, in terms of, if you want to just talk about means of that are available to us, I think, and that goes back again to being comfortable on the plantation. The plantation provides a lot of comforts. It's not the type of comforts that freedom provides, but it provides comfort. And they've also done a real good job. I'm talking about, the government. I'm talking about the engineers of white supremacy in America and throughout the world. They've done a real good job of beating the hell out of us in the past. And they remind us of that every year. Every year when they talk about the ceremonial black leaders and when they want to remind us about Black Wall Street and things of that nature, they do a real good propaganda job of reminding us that they tore that shit down. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked to black nationalists that said that if we build something somewhere in the country, somewhere within this country, that they will do a job on us like they did in Tulsa. So in the back of our minds, we're like, if we build it, can we protect it? And I think that part plays a huge role in regards to what we're willing to sacrifice for.
And but why become the elephant who was tied to the pole and learned that it couldn't break the string from the pole, and as the elephant becomes a full-grown bull elephant, the elephant still believes it can't break the little string from the little pole, and the elephant could just walk right out. Why condition ourselves to that? Why even do that to ourselves? All right, we know what happened in the past. We understand what happened in the past, but by them,
we don't.
If you're gonna talk like that, stop complaining. But if that's how you're gonna talk, that's how you're gonna walk, that's how you're gonna think, shut your mouth. Don't say nothing else about white supremacy, because you already quit.
But we don't understand what's happened in the past, and even those of us that do understand what happened in the past, amongst those of us that do, fewer of us still understand how that past would connect to this present. We don't understand the societal forces that were at play back then and how they might have shifted nowadays, or the rise of technology, or any number of everything is for the most part different nowadays than it was back then, outside of the way white people feel about black people. So I think that those gaps in understanding show themselves when people make statements like, if we build it, they're going to destroy it. Because it assumes that we're the same as we were back then, and we haven't learned any lessons. And it also assumes that they're the same as they were back then, and they haven't learned any lessons. And it assumes that the world as a whole is the same as it was back then. And so I get it. Like, I do get it. And obviously, if we're going to build something, defending it has to be protected. Yeah, that's a foregone conclusion. Absolutely. But when people say things like we can't be self-sustaining nowadays, like, to me, that comes across as somebody that's not willing to give up anything. That goes back to the question we were asking years ago, where we were saying, would you be willing to give up your car for a free black community? And people were saying, well, why should I have to?
Right.
Why should I?
Why should I?
You know what I'm saying? Like those were the responses from people who were, and so I think that's what we're. If you tell black people, if you tell people in America, black people being the derivative of that, if you tell them that there's a place where your children can be totally free and you can sleep with your doors unlocked and you don't have to worry about crime or anything like that. You just have to give up the internet and your vehicle. A good chunk of them wouldn't go.
Right. But that goes back to what we've been talking about for a while, and things that I've been reading in Dr. Naeem Akbar's book, and I'm now reading in Dr. Francis Cress Welson's book. We're displaying the extent of the conditioning. Hey, I have a chance at freedom, because it's like it was a movie I was watching, or a series I was watching on Netflix, and it was about these Africans who was enslaved in Colombia, and they were able to escape the plantation after a big fire, and they were living in the Colombo, and two of the children went to the white town, and they wasn't supposed to get spotted, but they messed around and got spotted, and so the white people sent a black scout to go find them and follow them and see where they're going. The mindset, right? The black scout followed them to the Colombo. At that point, he had a choice. These white folk have no idea where I am. Like, no idea where I am. I could go into this Colombo and never come back. And the white people never find me or none of these children. Nope. He saw it and he went back and told the white people. And then the white people came and ramshacked everything. But that's that mindset of that dependence. We are totally dependent upon white people at deeper levels than we even understand. Like you say, people are not willing to give up their car to be free, but they keep the same system that they complain about. You're not willing to give up your car. My man Sam Carter always say, success is measured by sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we always talk about this. As black people in America, we never had the opportunity to be autonomous fully. And
Right.
therefore, we never had the opportunity to truly nation build. And we never had the opportunity, or we missed out on some opportunities, I should say, to be full functioning adults in anything, activity in terms of planning, operation, maturity. So when we talk about what people aren't willing to give up, that just speaks to somebody who's immature. And we have a community full of immature people who aren't willing to give up their toys, aren't willing to give up access to their leisure, aren't willing to give up access to their fun for liberties and freedoms. And they also don't want the responsibility that comes with being free. Mm-hmm. The responsibility with having to source your own food, having to create your own power grids, having to, create ministries that run specific parts of your particular government as you govern over your people, who don't want the responsibility. We don't want the responsibility of cleaning up our streets from crime. That shit happens on our block. You know what I'm saying? It's always they need to do something. Somebody needs to do something. We don't even want to take care of the trash in front of our houses.
I was finna say that,
yeah. So the frustration is there. And, we'll get into it a little later on, but there were some things that came up after we completed the documentary back in 2018.
Yeah. Because every couple months, I either go out by myself or I take my boys with me, and we clean streets. We don't post it on the internet. You know what I'm saying? We don't. Well, I don't post nothing.
You ain't supposed to.
But You know what I'm saying? We don't.
If you out there working, you're not thinking about your cameras.
You know, but I'm saying that, you know, just to say we do it because it's something that I feel like need to be done. Now, my boys probably don't share the same feeling. They do it because I tell them we're going to do it. But, the fact remains, in a lot of cases, as it's happened on several occasions, as I'm picking up trash in a community that I don't live in, that's a predominantly Black community, there will inevitably be somebody that'll walk by, ask me what I'm doing, and keep walking. There will inevitably be somebody who presumably lives in that community that'll see me doing what I'm doing, put their trash in my bag, and keep walking. And there have even almost every single time been somebody that'll see me doing what I'm doing, interact with me, drop trash on the ground, and keep walking. Now, some of them try to be cute about it. They try to talk to me a little bit and drop their trash where they think I can't see it. But so when we're talking about the cleaning up our and things of that nature, like I love the way PC said it, because when you say, you know, you make the choice to be free, you know, yeah, but we also have to make the choice to be responsible and be accountable. And those are the choices that people don't really want to make in these modern times. You don't want to make that choice. If you say we need to build our own food supply, you know, people are like, well, how we gonna make ramen noodles? Well, no, we can grow stuff in the dirt. Yeah, but I'm gonna be getting tired of eating apples every day. You know what I'm saying? I don't be wanting to eat the same thing like there's always an excuse for why they can't do something. And so in that sense, even in developing an independent community, you know, it starts up here. Like, you got to have an independent brain, an independent way of thinking. You know, we got to decalcify some of these cortexes. And that to me is where it starts.